Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Trail Mix, where the nuts might be a little stale, but the company is always fresh.
Budget, showdown, shutdown, showdown. Craig Crawford here, working for nothing but the truth and Social Security checks with my favorite talker, chatter, Jamie, right here. Hi, Jamie.
Hi there.
Oh, I shouldn't say favorite because I'm leaving out Whiskey Jack. He's my other favorite. And Carolyn.
And Carolyn.
Yeah.
Apparently, the whole idea of healthcare is starting to really make waves. I think the American public is kind of catching on. Enough people have said, if you take away 200 billion and you give back 50 billion, that means they're losing 150 billion in healthcare.
Yeah, that's what the Democrats. Here's what, when they came out of the meeting today. Here's I got to see the whole C-SPAN clip, so that way we're not listening to big.
Just do it on your phone. Yep. Right there, I'm not gonna get it there. Just on your phone. It's fine. No way. Here we go. They're coming. Heads up.
Okay. Well, we met with the president for the first time since all of these issues started, even though we have requested repeated meetings with Leader Thune, Speaker Johnson, and the president. We have very large differences on health care and on their ability to undo whatever budget we agree to through rescissions and through impoundment, as well as pocket rescissions. And I think for the first time, the president heard our objections and heard why we needed a bipartisan bill. Their bill has not one iota of Democratic input. That is never how we've done this before. When I was leader, we negotiated 4 times with Republicans, and we never had a shutdown. And so it's up to the Republicans whether they want to shut down or not. We've made to the president some proposals. Our Republican leaders will have to talk to him about them, but ultimately he's the decision maker. And if he will accept some of the things we asked, which we think the American people are for, on health care and on rescissions, he can avoid a shutdown. But there are still large differences between us.
There was a frank and direct discussion with the President of the United States and Republican leaders, but significant and meaningful differences remain. Democrats are fighting to protect the health care of the American people, and we are not going to support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of everyday Americans. Period. Full stop. There's a Republican-caused healthcare crisis that is causing hospitals and nursing homes and community-based health clinics all across the country, in rural America, urban America, small-town America, the heartland of America, and black and brown communities throughout this country. And that crisis is happening right now. And that's why we believe there's urgency to both keeping the government open, reaching a bipartisan spending agreement that actually meets the needs of the American people in terms of their health, their safety, their economic well-being and quality of life, while also addressing the dangerous Republican healthcare crisis.
We laid out to the president some of the consequences of what's happening in healthcare. And by his face, and by the way he looked, I think he heard about them for the first time. The closing of rural hospitals. The fact that so many clinics are closing. And I don't know if he knew this before, but the fact that people will pay $4,000 more a year, $400 more a month, close to $5,000 more a year on their health care premiums if we don't do anything. And people don't know what to do. The average working family can't afford that. I told him how I met a mother who was crying to me because her daughter had cancer. And what has happened with health care, with what they have done, she's going to watch her daughter suffer and maybe die. And so he seemed to, for the first time, understand the magnitude of this crisis. And we hope he'll talk to the Republican leaders and tell them we need bipartisan input on health care, on rescissions into their bill. Their bill does not have these, they never talk to us. Thune didn't negotiate with me. Johnson didn't negotiate with Hakeem. And on the key issues, the Appropriations Committee, which has talked about 3 of the smaller bills, they're good bills, they said the appropriators couldn't agree and said kick it up to the 4 leaders. They still haven't talked.
And let me say, we're deadly serious about addressing the Republican-caused health care crisis because it's a deadly serious issue for the American people. Largest cuts in Medicaid in American history. Hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health clinics closing right now. The fact that more than 20 million Americans are on the brink of experiencing dramatically increased premiums, copays, and deductibles because of the Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, which benefit working class Americans. And we pointed that out. I pointed that out. Working class Americans, their health care, that's what we're fighting to preserve, to defend, and to strengthen.
Leader Schumer. We're going to shut down.
Is the government going to shut down in 30 hours?
Well, they're putting the focus on the health care cuts, and I found that interesting, that business about that Trump was hearing it for the first time. That could be true.
Well, we know that he makes a box of rocks look like a Mensa meeting.
Yeah. Well, this is something I've seen before. Is it might be genuine because I remember on gun control, he had a meeting. This is his first term. And he started, the Democrats in the meeting were getting him around to the idea of some gun legislation that, because he doesn't really think through these things. And he said, well, that sounds pretty good. And that was in front of the reporters. And the next thing that happened is that was when Wayne LaPierre still ran the NRA. And he called up and set up a meeting with Trump the next day and straightened him out on how he could not support what he was starting to sound like he was supporting in the way of gun control. And that's what happens. Sometimes he'll get in these meetings and Schumer's a pretty good talker. It might have been genuine. They might have actually gotten Trump thinking about the healthcare impact of his legislation. But then Vance and the others will get with him and straighten him out before anything really changes.
Well, that's it. It's the last person in the room because he does not read and he does not think long term. So it's a matter of who talked to him last that he was willing to believe and what the talking point is that he can memorize so that he does not have to actually have an original thought. That is beyond him. If it isn't written down by somebody else for him to read, or he's echoing somebody else's quote, he cannot talk to an issue, and he goes flipping off into the greatest, the most,
Yeah. Well, now we can hear the Republicans came out later. And they came out of swinging. There's their little videographer who's always right with them.
Right.
He's the one that caused Trump the escalator to stop the other day at the UN. That videographer.
Well,
Vance really pulled out all the stops here on calling the Democrats everything.
Leadership. Look, the principle at stake here is very simple. We have disagreements about tax policy, but you don't shut that government down. We have disagreements about healthcare policy, but you don't shut the government down. You don't use your policy disagreements as leverage to not pay our troops, to not have essential services of government actually function. You don't say the fact that you disagree about a particular tax provision is an excuse for shutting down the people's government and all the essential services that come along with it. If you look at what Chuck Schumer has said in the past consistently, it's whatever our disagreements are, let's negotiate with them. Let's talk about them. Let's figure out a bipartisan solution, but you don't shut the government down. In other words, you don't put a gun to the American people's head and say, unless you do exactly what Senate and House Democrats want you to do, we're going to shut down your government. That's exactly what they're proposing out there. Now, we have to remember, they're very frustrated. They say that they're very frustrated about the fact that this negotiation has not taken place until today. But if you look at the original thing they did with this negotiation, it was a $1.5 trillion spending package, basically saying to the American people, we want to give massive amounts of money, hundreds of billions of dollars to illegal aliens for their health care, while Americans are struggling to pay their health care bills. That was their initial foray into this negotiation. We thought it was absurd. We told them it was absurd, and now they come in here saying that if you don't give us everything that we want, we're going to shut down the government. We think that's preposterous. We think it's totally unacceptable, and we think the American people are going to suffer because these guys won't do the right thing. Now, I want to make one final point here. You will hear a lot from Senate Democrats, from House Democrats about the fact that American...
I've got a sound effect for this one. That's going to be my new sound effect for anytime JD Vance talks.
Well, we know that American healthcare policy is broken. We've been trying to fix it for the 8 months that we've been in office.
But he talks in such broad generalities that he's making absolutely no sense.
Well, I mean, they are really on this talking point that this whole debate is about Democrats want to give health care to illegal immigrants or whatever it is he's saying. You know, that's their whole.
And it would be a minuscule amount. If someone gets into a traffic accident and they happen to be undocumented and they go to the hospital is required to treat them. Now, they might do that out of community funds. They might do it from some government grant, but it's not going to be a huge percentage of whatever the feds are coughing up.
Let's see. We'll go back to where he said.
We told them it was absurd, and now they come in.
Yeah, right here, I think, where he said.
Give massive amounts of money, hundreds of billions of dollars to illegal aliens for their health care, while Americans.
Yeah. Massive millions of dollars to illegal aliens for their health care. They're all making that argument. That's their big talking point, trying to make people think, and they'll get people thinking. You know, Maggot Man's going to say that if he ever comes on it. They're all believing that this is all about how this whole debate is about Democrats wanting to give health care to illegal immigrants.
Okay, my primary care physician works out of the community health care offices that are about a mile away from me, because most of the referrals for specialists and so on are through multi-care down where the hospitals are. But for just average, everyday, once every few months checkup and so on, that is community health care. They get their money from either insurance, if you have it, state grants that they get, some federal funds, and everyone is charged on their ability to pay. Whatever their income is, that is what they are charged. So I get charged the full amount, my insurance covers it. Somebody comes in with infants and, maybe not working or whatever, they don't pay.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
And-
Jack.
And no one asks them whether or not they're a citizen. So yes, from that standpoint, it may be that the feds would be paying for some undocumented health care, but certainly not to the tune of millions of dollars or slighting American citizens. Hi, Jack.
Hey,
Yeah.
well, here's what I'm going to say on it. Most of the undocumented people are young, and I remember being young, and I never went to a doctor.
Right.
I didn't go to a doctor between the time I was about 20 to the time I was 40. And they don't either, unless they're injured on the job.
That was their initial.
Now I've known that happen. In that case, there's actually supposed to be something that covers that, and that's their employer.
And this is what Jamie was reacting to. I mean, I'm focused on this because I'm hearing them all. When I hear the same thing from a whole bunch of these Republicans, and you realize it's their talking point, this is their big argument here.
Massive amounts of money, hundreds of billions of dollars to illegal aliens for their health care, while Americans are struggling to pay their health care.
That's what they're saying Democrats are fighting for in this shutdown debate is millions of massive amounts of money, millions of dollars to illegal immigrants for their health care. And, you know, that fits
And actually,
on a bumper sticker.
What the Democrats need to say, no, what we're fighting for is grandma's nursing home money.
Right.
Because nobody, the government barely pays. Like Jamie said, the government barely pays any health care stuff that's not tied to Medicaid. And the big Medicaid spending.
The thing about Medicaid spending is people just don't realize that. Yeah, it's for older people in nursing homes and even assisted living. That's Bill Clinton used to go crazy about that, wanting Democrats to stay focused on that when in the Medicaid fights, and he would get really upset with other Democrats for not letting that Medicaid debate go by without making that point.
And what the nursing homes get basically is the Social Security that comes in once a month, the Medicaid funds for illnesses, and some grants from states. But the rest the family has to cover. I mean, if they want any special care above and beyond that,
yes,
that's the family.
And it's not, I don't know what it is now, but 10 years ago, my mother, we were paying $7,000 to $8,000 a month for her care in a nursing home after her heart attack. And that was, she had the resources. And the bad thing about it was she would sit there and we would, for the state of Missouri, we were able to deduct her medical stuff for the land we sold of hers. So she didn't pay any federal taxes, but the state wanted their cut. And so she ended up with about $3,000 a year that she had to pay in state taxes, but she didn't have to pay anything in federal taxes. And I guess it was it wasn't the medical thing. It was the taxes on selling her land under federal capital gains. Yes, the state didn't. She had to pay taxes on that capital gain at 6%, and so we were selling her land to pay for it.
And that, the Democrats ought to have the upper hand in this debate on this healthcare stuff if people just can connect the dots. That's the trouble is when you've got Republicans trying to change the subject to their cuts in Medicaid and health care for under Obamacare, when they're trying to change the subject, is Democrats just want to give illegals free health care and take your money and give it to the illegals. I mean, that's their argument.
Well, I think basically they just need to say every time if a reporter asks, well, what about that? The Democrat says, well, where's your proof? You're asking the question, where's your proof it even happens?
Yeah.
You know. And then if they do like Mega Man said, well, if they get hurt and they have to go to the hospital with appendicitis, show me where the federal government pays for that.
Yeah.
The federal government doesn't pay for that. It's picked up by the community. A lot of it's picked up by donations to the hospitals, the community, because they go to community-run hospitals. They don't go to the private hospitals.
Well, that was what I was telling Craig, that here in Washington, the community health care centers at various areas around Tacoma are the ones that handle that day-to-day expenses. And no, they get very little money. And if it is, it's because maybe the state got a block grant that they spread out to them. But no direct funds, no payments like that.
Well, the other thing, they say, well, they're required by law to treat them. No, they're not.
Right.
They're required to stabilize them. When they come into the emergency room, that's it. You know.
Yeah, and they even have an emergency up near the main hospitals that act as sort of a triage so that the emergency rooms aren't stacked for hours at a time, waiting for people to get treated. I mean, it's still pretty bad, but
yeah. Here's this article you had on Trail Mix earlier, Jamie, that from the Midas people, that a deal to avert in exchange for. So one of the things the Democrats are seeking is to maintain health care premium subsidies under the ACA. Do we even call it Obamacare anymore? Have we just stopped calling it that, or I don't know,
they stopped calling it that.
But so there's that issue. You know, we've been talking about Medicaid. The other issue is that's going to affect a lot of younger people is these premium. People are going to start seeing their premiums go up. Those that have Obamacare or the ACA. And they got to be told why it's happening because it's not. That's where the Democrats have got to get that across to people's feeling, getting hit with those. That this is why it's happening. Is Republicans are cutting it.
Well, I know the Medicare deduction for insurance is going up about $40. But we don't know yet. Probably next month we'll get the figure of what the COLA is going to be for Social Security. So the hope is maybe Social Security might go up by another $20 by the time it's balanced out against the raise for health care.
Yeah, that's about what my mom always said. I remember when she was on Social Security, I said, well, you're getting a raise. And she said, well, that's just going to cover what the Medicare raise.
Yeah, because Medicare does keep going up. Now, what do you think's going on here with Trump deciding this? They point out here, Trump decided to hold the meeting with the congressional leaders behind closed doors with no press. That's unusual for him. They didn't have the usual, back and forth in front of the press. I mean, the last shutdown, remember that was when he and Pelosi got into it and finger pointing, and he and Schumer and everything. So
Yeah.
I thought we'd get some of those fireworks today. I was a little disappointed.
I think someone got to him that he no longer comes off really great with these. Like with the meeting with Zelensky, he got hammered for the way they treated him.
Yeah. Yeah.
He can't demagogue these issues as much as he used to.
Well, part of it, I think, is people are noticing it more.
Right.
But no, that's kind of interesting. That yeah, he didn't do it as a, out in the open. That they did it behind closed doors.
I think part of it is because that last one, that one that year, I forget the actual, I think it was 2019. Anyway, that was the longest shutdown we've ever had. That one lasted like a month.
Yeah.
And that was the one where in that meeting, I actually had a picture of it here somewhere, that meeting, but in that actual meeting is when he took blame. He said, I'll be blamed for, oh, here it is. I've got anyway, he took credit. He said he was proud of the shutdown. Said, he said in the meeting, and that became the big story. So I think they wanted to avoid a moment like that because they're trying to blame this shutdown on Democrats. And they didn't want Trump in there saying, I'm going to do it. It's all me. That's what happened last time. And they got burned.
And it's who is he going? And if it shuts down, who will he declare essential? Because the military gets paid, Social Security gets paid, VA gets paid, but the hospitals might get cut off on some issues. So there could be a slowdown in treatment. I'm pretty sure air traffic controllers are kept on duty.
Well,
So-
it'll be the Parks Department for sure. Anybody that doesn't have anything to do with safety or old people.
Well, actually, we could ask our.
They won't shut ice down, will they?
Yeah, no, that's actually going up, and they're hiring 10,000 more ice.
Yeah.
Of course,
Oh.
a lot of ICE is getting sued these days. They keep hurting people. We just had the one death in ICE custody.
I got your video here, Jack.
Oh, yeah. The skunk.
There he is.
I'm
He barely
in a trap.
How'd he
Now
get
what do you
himself in there? He barely fits in
The
there.
first time this happened to me,
They're just room
my
for them to
main
turn
thought
around.
was that I wanted to try to contain the spray and not get any on me. And the best thing I could think of was a piece of canvas. And that's what I'm going to go get because I've got to
he's
deal with
still
this
in
critter.
the cave.
Going to take him out and turn him loose out in the wild somewhere way away from my backyard.
So he hasn't had food and water since you trapped him?
He's already out doing his thing.
Oh,
Oh, you've already taken him out?
Yeah, he got caught sometime early in the morning, in the middle of the night. Yeah, I did that about as quick as I get around to it.
But you didn't get a video of that.
I've got about 6 or 7 more videos. I need to figure out how to do some work on them because I've got my license plate on my pickup in a couple of them out there.
Well, if you like you did this one, if you just post it, I can download them and edit them.
Yeah.
Edit.
Can I email it to you?
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're such big files. We'll see. I mean, it depends on how big they get.
Yeah.
Sometimes video files get so big, you can't just email them. You got to use like Dropbox or some
No, okay.
third party thing. But you can put it on YouTube and just make it unlisted,
Yeah.
and that way only people who get the email, the address.
And then they email you the link.
Right. Yeah. If
Okay.
you can make it unlisted, and that way only people who have the link can see it. I do a lot of family stuff that way that I don't want to put on the public.
Yeah.
Now, I was going to ask.
No worries at all. Feel free to go ahead and ask whenever you're ready. I'll be here and listening quietly so we can get that question. Absolutely. Take your time. Whenever you're ready.
What was the question we were just having about? What were we talking about just now? About the that we needed. I thought we might need to look up the facts on. Was it?
Oh, we were trying to find out how many people had already been fired or
Yeah,
retired.
we were just talking about the numbers on how many federal workers have been reduced since the
See, he
start of the current.
remembers. Okay, well we'll bring up Stat Dude here. Okay, Stat, we're going to try again because I want some specifics, and tell me if there aren't any. But how many federal workers has Donald Trump in this second term since he became president in January? How many federal workers has he run off, fired, riffed, whatever you want to call it? How many are gone?
Absolutely. Let's break it down. So as Statute, I'll say this. Right now, the exact numbers are still a bit up in the air. We're a few months into the second term, and while there are definitely reports of reductions, we don't have a solid verified total yet. Estimates suggest it could be in the thousands, possibly even tens of thousands as things unfold, but the exact figure isn't locked in. So the short answer is we've got estimates, but not a final concrete number just yet.
Well, now, how many people are they hiring? Because we know that they are hiring. They got funding to hire. Well, check this out. Check this fact. I understand they got funding to hire 10,000 new ICE agents. Go research that. That's his little research click button. He clicks. You hear those little clicks when he's researching. I like the clicking.
All right, here's what StatDunes found. It looks like there's indeed funding in place in 2025 for hiring about 10,000 new ICE agents. They've got a...
Go ahead.
You got it. So yeah, it turns out that they really do have that funding set aside for about 10,000 new ICE agents. So while they're reducing some federal workforce in other areas, they are definitely ramping up hiring in that particular department.
Well, now see, that's what I'm getting at, because you were saying earlier that the estimates range into the tens of thousands. Okay, well, if it's that low, we know in just one agency they're hiring 10,000. What I'm getting at is we may not have a net loss of federal workers going on here at all.
Greg, I found a number.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're getting at, and you've got a really good point. When you factor in something like 10,000 new hires in one agency alone, it does kind of balance out some of those reductions elsewhere. So you're absolutely right. We might not be looking at a net loss overall. It could be more of a reshuffling or a shift rather than just a straight cut in total numbers.
Yeah, I think that's what we're dealing with. What did you have, Jamie?
I said I've got a number from the Federal News Network. Since January, approximately 199,000 federal employees have left their jobs, with about 106,000 of those being cut from the Departments of Defense, Treasury, and Agriculture alone. This figure reflects the significant workforce reductions across various federal agencies.
Well, now who is that? What is that source?
That's from the Federal News Network.
Federal News Network. Because I just want to get this straight as to how many are actually, what the workforce reduction is.
Well, and how many have been rehired because all of a sudden they realized they had to have somebody in the job?
Well, and it's not, see, the reason I focus on this is because in Project 2025, what I saw in the campaign when I read it was, yeah, they were talking about getting rid of a lot of workers, but they had a lot of plans to hire people. They even had a university, they had a name for it, a place where people could sign up online through the Project 2025 website and submit their resumes and even get training. They even had academy, that's what they call it, training. And so, and in that in that document, they said they planned to hire 100,000 people. I mean, they had before the inauguration, they had over 25,000 applications. And see, that's what they're not talking about. They're not telling us the only hiring I've heard about is these ICE agents.
Well, there's the other thing. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I know it works some way. Is that if my job gets terminated where I'm at, if I'm a federal worker, I can move sideways into another department.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I found another stat where it said 300,000 had been announced, but as of July, just under 200,000 have actually departed.
Yeah. I mean, the
So
numbers
that
are
may
just all over the place.
Yeah, that may be all of that sideways wiggle that Jack is talking about.
well, I don't know how it works. I do know they've got some rights under
Right.
the civil service law.
And a lot of them were getting paid for taking early retirement. So they were getting basically a 7-month paid vacation.
Yeah, there's just an awful
My
lot
son
of
took advantage of.
there's an awful lot of them. Well, kind of like your son. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a number of those people who are like in the Corps of Engineers that, they're my age and they're going, oh, you give me a big chunk of money to quit. Okay. I think in some ways it gets to where it's not fun anymore.
Now, the other thing is, I like this language. Now, when diplomats talk like this, Hakeem Jeffrey said, it was a frank and direct discussion with the president. When diplomats say that, it means they had a fist fight. I don't know about this world.
Yeah, it was.
It certainly does.
Came out of the room alive.
Yeah. Frank and direct. Now, somebody told me I hadn't verified it on my own, but that apparently over the weekend in one of the Sunday shows, Hakeem said that he had this would be the first time he's ever met Trump. Is that possible? I mean, being from New York and everything, I think I don't know. He apparently said that on one of the Sunday shows. And I'm thinking, well, then he's lucky.
Well, Jeffrey probably did not run in those circles. To me,
yeah, probably not. No.
Whereas the Clintons did.
Yeah.
That's just the whole Epstein deal. I say, there's a lot of people that are in those files that don't want their name to come out.
Oh, here it is. Hakeem Jeffries has never met Donald Trump face to face. However, he and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer were set to meet with Trump on September 14 to discuss the shutdown negotiation.
Oh, that's the one he canceled.
The meeting was canceled
Yeah.
by Trump, who stated that the demands were unserious and ridiculous.
So he met with them today, huh?
I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah, they met today.
Well, maybe they got more serious in the last month.
Well, that's the one. That's the meeting where Hakeem is saying it was frank and direct discussion. That's the one. That was today's meeting where he was saying that. And then Vance, you don't use your policy disagreements to not have essential services. I think we're heading towards a shutdown because the Democrats won't do the right thing.
Whichever
I don't think Trump
ought to get
said
online,
anything.
quote that sentence. That
Of course, you use policy for budgeting.
And just say, no shit, Sherlock.
Yeah.
I mean, that statement about hundreds of billions of dollars to illegal aliens is so
they're all saying it
phony.
too. I mean,
phony on the surface.
Yeah. And it's I've watched these people. They are so disciplined, and once they settle on, it doesn't matter if it's a lie. In fact, it usually is. They settle on one little fact that they know is just going to cut through all the garbage to people, and they just say it over and over, and that is what they're trying to drive home. And I think they do, but I just think Democrats, I hope they understand that's their weapon right now. Is you're trying to give free health care to illegal immigrants and take it away from real Americans. That's their argument.
Remember the movie Dave, where he brought in an actual accountant to go over the federal budget? That was fun.
Yeah.
Why the way to correct the hundreds of billions is just to point out what the Medicaid costs annually, and then point out how much of it goes to the old people.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that Bill Clinton was so good at. That kind of stuff. I mean, we're at countering these arguments. I mean, that's why he won the shutdown with Gingrich. I mean, Democrats could go back and study how Bill Clinton just whipsawed Gingrich in that shutdown and ended up on top. And that's because he had the command of stuff like you're saying, Jack. I mean, he could pull that together and really make people understand it.
And make it simple and direct it right to the people where they understand it's their problem. It's not some weird thing out here is going to affect somebody else.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Let me put this up. This is what our president just posted
Medicaid
about the meeting.
Medicaid runs about $900 billion.
Yeah.
And that's all of it to everybody.
Yeah. And Medicaid does not go at all to anybody who's not a a citizen. Because there for a while you have to be here for several years before you can qualify. don't remember. They changed that to where just almost a non-citizen could not get Medicaid, period, or any kind of help.
Well, I don't know, but that's got to be countered. That they need a counter argument because that is the argument there.
Okay,
And, you know,
Medicaid goes to children, parents, and pregnant women, seniors, individuals with disabilities, and low-income adults. So,
So here, you know, as we try to get the facts, this is what our president is posting.
Yep.
There it is.
And that is an unserious person.
at the federal level, no undocumented can receive Medicaid.
Yep.
I mean, how do you? I mean, that's what Trump's putting out, and we're reading statistics. I mean, it's like, which needs to happen, but I don't. When you got somebody who's playing the game this way, I don't know.
Yeah, no, they're not to get health care or Medicare. Some states do give it to undocumented, but not at the federal level. So I guess if they're getting block grants, they might distribute it any way they want.
Yeah, but most likely it comes out of the state coffers.
Right.
And there's only a few states that do that. And they do it mostly because, well, they have enough, that particular immigrant community has enough pull to get it done.
Yeah, so that's all Trump's had to say about today about this. Everything else he's posted here is just about other stuff.
Yeah.
That is, this right here is our president's sole comment on the budget debate right here.
But he's not a racist, you understand.
Right.
I don't know why anyone would think that he is.
I got to play this. You got to play this one more time.
Oh, that's just humor, Jamie. It's just a joke. Can't you take a joke?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, just listen. This is not only posted by our president, but it's the only thing he's had to say all day about the impending federal shutdown.
I always got this reminds me of doing the neighborhood stuff. And I started doing it when I was up there about 25 years ago. And I got this meeting and there was this old woman and she would get up there and talk about she was like she'd grown up in the neighborhood and she wanted it to be just like it used to be. And she said, well, and I understand this is politically incorrect, but I mean white.
Well, at least she was honest.
Well, wait a minute. Now, when there got to be a number of blacks in the neighborhood association, and she knew she couldn't comfortably say that anymore, she switched to Mexicans. And then when she couldn't just say Mexicans because people got on to her about it, it was illegals. But she meant the same thing.
Well, I hear chat. Is this? Did I put this on the screen? Oh no.
Well, I want California to be exactly like it was when I was born, and there were only 12 million people there.
Empty, huh?
Yeah.
I don't want global population to have tripled in my lifetime.
I tell you what, that's my world. A lot of people in my world went to California in the 30s and 40s.
Right.
Some of them came back and some of them didn't. And it's a little like I tell people about the immigrants that I knew in my neighborhood up there. A lot of them plan on going back, and then they had kids, and then all of a sudden they've got grandkids, and they end up staying. And I know I've got some family in California and Arizona that were just exactly that way. They were always planning on coming back.
Basically, it was a case of how do you ruin paradise? Add people.
Yeah.
Well, now here's one Democrat response, not an elected, but to Vance. This is what he said, what Vance said today in that clip we played earlier. Here it is in text form outside the White House. We want to give hundreds of billions of dollars to illegal aliens for their health care. Now, check this out. Here's John Favreau's suggestion for what we say. If no one asks him to defend this absurd lie, I'm going to lose my fucking mind.
Yeah. That's just.
I mean, see, and that's
just outrageous.
You know, what they say things that are so completely absurd that Democrats have a tendency to say, "Well, that's just silly. Nobody believes that," and they get burned over and over and over again because they do believe it.
Yeah, unless they put numbers behind that absurdity, it doesn't really impact. Or just what we found, no federal dollars are spent on undocumented. No.
Yeah, it's in the law. It's been in the law for over 20 years. I think that got added when Clinton was in there. But
see, I mean, here's a Republican, Mark Alford. I think they were a little disappointed that Trump didn't do a public showdown with these Democrats today. Let's bring them into the Oval Office. Let's give them a little taste of what we gave Zelensky back in the spring. I mean, that's what they were rooting for.
And of course, no jobs report, because they really don't want you to know what the economy is like at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, that's what autocrats do: is you take over the numbers, and then make them up. And then you say, look, the economy's great. I mean, Trump literally said last week, inflation's gone. It's just gone. And they'll end up with producing numbers that support that because they're taking control of the numbers.
Anyway, are we pretty well talked out on this issue, or was there something anybody else wanted to talk about?
Part of the thing is, I got mixed up because I thought the deadline was midnight tonight.
No,
because I saw somebody say somewhere that the deadline was midnight Tuesday. Well, in my mind, because I've always gotten that mixed up. If you don't say to me 12:01 a.m. on Wednesday, instead say midnight Tuesday, I think that means 12:01 a.m. Tuesday.
Yeah, because Wednesday is when the money starts showing up in everybody's bank accounts.
Yeah.
So they're making so that makes the shutdown at midnight.
So I got all worked up to go to the chat room because I thought the deadline was tonight.
I remember one of the shutdowns. I think it was with George Bush, and they shut down, and I had a contract with the Corps of Engineers at the time, and part of it would go from May to October to the 1st of November. Well, the October one always went on the next year, of course. And so they had the shutdown, and I lost my October. month. And the bad thing about it was the October month, I didn't do any work. They really didn't need me. They didn't know it. And when they shut down and didn't have me, they realized they didn't need me. So the next time they renewed the contract, they did away with the October month.
Yeah, it gets confusing. Like,
well, that's the one I remember.
Anyway, so you gentlemen have a very nice evening. I'm going to go off and do family stuff.
yeah, I'm about done. In fact, yeah, it's I go to bed about 10 o'clock, so I'm about done.
It's time for me to eat a bite of supper. So,
seeing as how we don't have a shutdown tonight,
pick some beets up and I put them in the microwave and cooked them, so they ought to be done.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think I'll rev it up for tomorrow night. We'll try again since that's the actual shutdown.
Well, you take care.
You too. Bye-bye now.
The U.S. Congress has until the end of September to pass legislation keeping the federal government open. Failing to do that would trigger a partial government shutdown. Congress is supposed to allocate funding to 438 government agencies before October 1st, but lawmakers rarely meet this deadline and instead pass temporary spending bills to keep the government operating. If they let that funding lapse, government agencies must stop all work not deemed essential. It is not unusual for negotiations to run right up to the point where funding is due to expire. But those tensions have been amplified under President Donald Trump.
Is there going to be a government shutdown? Could be, yeah, because the Democrats are crazed.
Republicans control both the House of Representatives and the Senate, but they will need at least 7 Democratic votes in the 100-seat Senate to pass spending legislation. This gives the minority party some leverage.
The most important kind of indicator of the economic and fiscal costs of a shutdown is the duration of a shutdown.
Rachel Snyderman is the Managing Director of Economic Policy at the Bipartisan Policy Center.
In previous shutdowns, we have seen disruptions to farm loans, rural development programs, some of those veteran assistance training and support programs, even rental assistance for low-income Americans has been impacted. We've seen the closure of national parks, which has impacted tourism across the country, and of course that has a large indirect effect on local economies.
According to the Congressional Research Service, there have been 14 shutdowns since 1981. The most recent one was also the longest, lasting 35 days, triggered during Donald Trump's first term.
But when we had the 35-day shutdown in December in 2018 to January 2019, we saw $3 billion in lost economic growth that we could not recover.
Each government department has a contingency plan to determine which employees must keep working without pay.
This is your TSA officers, the FAA, who ensures that flight safety remains, safe and continues. Of course, our military servicemen and women. But it's important to note that when it comes to many of these positions, they're required to show up without getting paid.
We'll continue to talk to the Democrats, but I think you could very well end up with a closed country for a period of time.
The Republican-controlled House of Representatives narrowly passed a bill on September 19th to keep government agencies funded through November 21st. The Senate, where 60 votes were required to approve the measure, promptly defeated it. Democrats insist that any spending bill must also ensure that expanded health care subsidies do not expire at the end of the year. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said on Sunday that the health care cuts threaten to close rural hospitals and dramatically hike insurance premiums. Republicans say they are open to extending those subsidies, but say the issue should be handled separately.